Three, two, one. We are back. David, Bishop, great to see you. Happy New Year.
A happy New Year to you, Mark. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hopefully you had a pleasant time off.
Yeah, relatively uneventful. I mean,
Yeah.
I did some work and, relaxed a little bit. How about you?
Very busy. It's been a busy time at Mercatus. We have some exciting news on January 9th. Mercatus has merged with Stor.ai and
Wow.
Relationshop. Yeah. And
Very cool.
Been working on it for a long time. It's very exciting. It's going to help make a real dent in the market, I think, when it comes to an opportunity and an alternative for grocery retailers to own their own first party experience, but more importantly be able to focus on those items that we've been talking about for a long time, which is increasing basket, increasing opportunity to engage and personalize communications in the experience, and then encourage repeat purchase, which is very critical to the market going forward.
Yeah. So if I hear you correctly, Mark, the merger helps you accelerate Mercatus' ability to do those things, is what you're saying. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. Now, what's the name of the new company?
Mercatus.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations on the next chapter in your professional career there, Mark.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's get into the results, the year-over-year results that you've been tabulating for 2023, and I appreciate you sharing those with me in advance. One question that is clearly coming to the forefront right now is, it seems 2022 was very much a high watermark for online grocery in terms of sales revenue, order frequency, customer retention. Are there specific challenges in retaining customers that are unique, you think, to the eGrocery sector?
I think it's worth remembering that the pandemic really forced, for lack of a better word, a lot of adoption by as many as 70% of the U.S. households that went online. Now, they tried the services. Some may continue to use the service, but they originally tried the service because they needed to get their groceries and they had stay-at-home orders or they had concerns about COVID. So it became an essential service. As COVID waned and other things happened, the focus on getting your groceries that way became less paramount because, well, we could go back to the stores. And we know, and we continue to see, that most households have a strong preference for in-store shopping. So it reverted back to its core value proposition, which is around convenience. So, one aspect is it's become less essential to shop that way because we can go back to the more acceptable way of shopping, and that's very personalized. And then I think the other was that rampant inflation that peaked last year and has come down considerably this year, really just ate into purchasing power, and the value proposition, while it shifted back to convenience, also made some consumers more price sensitive. So, cost became a component of it. And as a consequence, we saw some shifting going around there. So, we need to recognize that the preferred mode of shopping still is in store. Online, without question, is still an incredibly important part of the business because it is continuing to grow. In fact, I just had an experience this week that says, that kind of showed me, the power of being online, whether it's growing or not. I can share that with you if you like.
Yeah.
So this week I was at PetSmart, a national pet, category killer here in the U.S., and they had a payment processing issue in the store. And what that meant was when I was trying to check out, I was unable to. I actually went to 3 lines, tried every credit card, debit card. I tried Apple Pay, and for whatever reason, my transactions weren't going through. And I wasn't the only one. But it was intermittent. So after 10, 15 minutes of all these failed efforts, I realized, hey, why don't I just go online, use the mobile app, and order online for store pickup? I have all the items right there. I did that. I pushed, pay, and within seconds, standing right next to me was the store manager. He got the notification. I showed him that. He completed the final steps as if I just came to pick it up, and I was able to leave. So without that ability, that utility, if you really think, PetSmart would have been out over $100 in a transaction simply because their payment processing was down in the store. So I think as I looked at that, I immediately wondered whether their IT or operations team even considered alerting the store staff to promote that, because what they were telling customers when they walked in was, just so you know, we're having issues with payment. Some are going through, some aren't. We still can take cash, like anyone has cash, or come back later. No one was really urging someone to shop online for pickup, which they could still use the app to do that. So I think that was just a nice reminder, a subtle reminder of the importance of seeing the bigger picture beyond just simply online.
Yeah, that's a great example, and I think most of our listeners and followers will know this, but general consumer does not. That the payment processing that happens in store is not necessarily the same payment processing that happens online. So I think that's a great example.
Yeah, and the pleasant surprise that customers would have encountered, I knew about, was that they would have seen a substantial savings in many cases with the items if they bought it online for pickup, as opposed to actually shopping the store and buying it themselves. PetSmart has an interesting pricing philosophy, which has a price match guarantee, that if you find a lower price online or in store for them, you just have to show proof of that at the checkout and they'll honor the lower price. What ends up happening is, in many cases, the lower price is actually online. So if you're shopping in the store, if you are cost conscious, you would benefit greatly by also price checking online while you're in the store, even before, or simply order online and then pick it up at the store. Again, that price discovery really is on the backs of the customer. If they're price conscious, then the behavior should elicit the savings. If they're not, well, then they'll pay the price that they pay.
Yeah, I think that's really smart advice. That you've identified there. Now, listen, I got my own little example. I want to bring it back to the conversation about the year over year. So I've been speaking with some of our clients, and it's interesting that a lot of their budget for this coming year has been based on the previous year's numbers. And although those numbers are down because of, for example, let's use a SNAP benefit cut, for example, that's eating into overall online sales revenue, their numbers are still higher than what they were, say, in 2019 and 2020.
Right.
But a lot of what's happening in the market too also has to do with the cross shopping with mass merchants. And we've been tracking this pretty closely month over month. Are there any significant changes in customer behavior or pricing strategies that have influenced the balance between the cross shop with mass and supermarkets or grocery stores? I noticed from previous months it's lowered now compared to what it was in November.
Yes. Now you're slipping into the month, the December results versus year ago. If we were looking at the annualized metric across the 12 months of 23 versus a year ago, that rate actually has climbed. It has climbed about 1.5 points. So, what does that mean? It just means that more of our shoppers, and R is the regional grocer, are shopping online with a mass retailer, and most notably, it's going to be Walmart. Walmart saw about a 1.4 percentage point increase year over year in that metric. Again, that's one aspect of the search for a value, or flight to value, if you will. But I think the other issue to your question about the top line results year over year being down slightly could be in some ways attributed to a shift to mass. Mass saw growth in their monthly active users by almost 15% versus the year ago, while supermarkets declined by about 4%. Now, why does that matter? While AOV for both mass and supermarkets both rose comparably by around 4%, supermarkets had a higher average order value by a few dollars over mass. So if we look at the weighted average as a result, if we have households shifting their purchases from a higher average order value format to a lower, that can compress the top line. I'm not suggesting that's the entire reason. The top line went down primarily because of ship to home. However, some of the headwinds that the core categories pickup and delivery faced could be attributed in part to the shift of monthly active users toward mass.
So, can you share with the audience or elaborate on what the mass merchant, primarily Walmart, is doing differently to drive that higher online shopping engagement amongst the customer base that they're attracting?
Yeah, I think what's interesting in our monthly is just a few months ago we started looking at identifying in totality the primary store of choice for households relative to groceries, and we've reported on that it's essentially a neck and neck lead, a tie between grocery and mass. Depending on the month, mass may be ahead, but when we look at the prevalence of those primary shoppers that shop online, what we see in general is that the Walmart shopper is more likely an active online grocery customer too. Yep. And furthermore, those primary shoppers who are online are significantly more likely to do that shopping online with their primary store. So to answer your question, how do we square that with what we see in the market? And one observation would be the utility that mobile app extends into the physical store shop. Where we look at Walmart or Target, you can even take Home Depot, for instance. The in-store app has functionality that's very valuable to shoppers for a variety of reasons. The wayfinding relative to the location of items that you're looking for. There's different degrees of precision there. Walmart is not the best in class in that. Target offers a far more precise location, but Home Depot really is the king of the hill still. When it comes to optimizing your walk path, if you want to take the list that you've built in the app and say, okay, now tell me how to walk the store to be as efficient as possible, retailers like Target have that feature. And then there, of course, is mobile pay, right? I told you at my PetSmart example, yep, I tried Apple Pay, which is a mobile pay function, but PetSmart doesn't have that functionality embedded in their app, and nor do a lot of regional grocers. So, when you look at all those things, the app utilitarian value to a shopper is far, far further away from online and extends into, any way the customer wants to shop. Yeah. So I think that's primarily the reason for the higher usage within the mass channel, is that its utilitarian value is significantly greater than what we see with mobile apps in regional grocers. There are some that are doing a very good job doing that, and I'm sure their penetration rates amongst their customers would reflect that as well.
Yeah. And I've advocated internally and externally that the mobile use case is different than just a pure web experience.
Well,
it's about linking the online to the in-store experience is critical.
And I think I saw on LinkedIn something from Mercatus about the percentage of transactions that are originated through mobile, right?
Yes.
You guys had this last week. Was it like 70%?
Yes, and in some cases, with some of our clients, it's north of 80.
Yeah. So
you think about
it. I don't know the number, but there are still grocers out there that don't have a mobile app.
Yeah.
Right.
Shocking.
So the only way they are able to shop online with that retailer means is they have to go desktop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they 100%. Can still do the desktop from their phone, but it's not an app.
It's not the native experience, and you're taking advantage of everything that the native device has to offer.
Exactly.
Let's shift gears a little bit, because you shared a post on LinkedIn earlier this week regarding a PSA, and we're not talking the prostate exam.
Yeah, I think both of us are in the age range that we know what that is. Yes.
That's right. But and it wasn't a public service announcement.
No.
You asked me what PSA meant to me. So why don't you elaborate on what the PSA was?
Yeah. Well, the PSA in that context was a kind of a play on the words, because it would really mean the public service announcement. But to me, it was please stop assuming. What I mean by that is that's directed not just at the company, but observers in the industry, whether it's media or not. Why I say that is generally the shiny thing gets all the attention, and it tends to have this positive or overly optimistic view that we've solved this critical problem. And I think that innovation, this was with the dash card, has shown some impressive leaps in terms of features and functionalities. We can question some of those in terms of what's the real utilitarian value of those. The issue was the devil in the details. It's getting that strategy executed effectively. In this case, it was around being able to get a printed receipt.
And I think it is instructive of a lot of technology implementations. To your point, focus on the bauble, but when in reality, the practical piece is, what are you doing to serve and deliver on a customer experience expectations? But
yeah. And the way I kind of enumerated my experience was to kind of highlight in lay terms all the failure points that went on. Here I go into the dash cart checkout lane, and it says, for a receipt, go to the service counter. Well, first thing I did is ask the store associate at the lane about this. They didn't have any idea about it. They just suggested I go to the service counter. So, I did. That means turning left, walking about 20, 30 yards back into the store next to the Krispy Kreme in terms of this location, which was Schaumburg, Illinois. And when I waited in line, because there was one or two people in front returning packages, which, hey, that's good, that service counter person did not have any awareness or information that would help me. So I was kind of like flummoxed, like, well, why is this showing up? And the fact of the matter is, this has been a persistent issue since the Gen 1 cart, frankly. And this is the Gen 2 cart. And for a company that, has agility or fail fast mindsets, find it somewhat implausible that this thing would escape. But what I've noticed, and this is not the first time, is that some of the most important technology that they're testing has failure points that frankly most regional grocers would never experience. And this would be an example of one of those, because can you imagine a regional grocer in their store seeing this and letting this ride for as long as it has?
What was the time difference between the Gen 1 and Gen 2 cart?
Oh, geez.
Roughly?
Roughly? Let's just say Gen 2 came out in late 21 and the first cart. So, at minimum, we're talking a year or more, right? If we want to just be gracious about it. And what does that tell you? What it tells me, what it suggests to me is that maybe no one in the leadership team is using the cart, or worse, they're using the cart but completely unaware. I'd use a stronger word, oblivious to the issue. Yeah. And to me, that reveals a blind spot. And that blind spot is that their personal bias is, we don't care about a receipt. Who would ever want a receipt? Well, I'm not the only one who would want one. The use case is pretty clear. I enter it into Quicken. I may use it for a business expense report, and getting it other ways is tricky. My Amazon account is in my wife's name. So if it were emailed, well, it goes to her email, not mine. Yep. And good luck having her email me something like a bill. And then they showed me where I could find it in the app. But frankly, unless someone didn't walk me through where it was under orders, under using a filter for local stores, I would never have found where it was located within the app. So, the point there is, boy, this is not as easy and as quick as it was before. So the question I led with the post is, how hard is it to install a printer just at the dash lane? I mean, you have a printer at self-checkout, you got a printer at the attended checkout. What assumption led you to believe that you don't need a printer at the dash lane just because someone uses the dash cart? So that's why I kind of press the please don't assume. There are other examples within Amazon Fresh Store we don't need to go through here. Yeah. But what this really came down to is some people will say, oh, that's a small issue that they'll fix eventually. And they are probably right. But the bigger point is it is indicative of potentially a larger problem, which is symptomatic of the structure or the culture of ignoring things that really need to be addressed if they're looking to, establish themselves as a credible, grocer for their customer base.
Yeah. I thought it was a great example and a really timely observation and a practical one that a customer would experience. So I applaud you in getting a little more real world experience in dealing with those.
Yeah, and it is a critical view, but that's not the same as saying it's a negative view. It's critical in the sense that I would expect more of Amazon, and there are other egregious examples I could share, but I'm not here to disparage anyone. But one of the things that people need to realize that is that Amazon has invested a lot of money in that technology, so you want to get the best return on that. And if people aren't using the carts, well, then that investment is suboptimal. And at the same time, they've also integrated more recently their geolocation specific targeted ads. They're using QR code tags up on the ceiling to refresh the screen every 10 or 15 feet. So they're displaying products to you on the cart screen as you're walking by that section. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
But here's the problem. One problem is if people have had a bad experience with the print receipt example, that may be a reason why they don't use the dash cart. And if they don't use the dash cart, well, that feature isn't really worth anything.
And the cool investment they've made is not panning out.
And then the next issue, and this kind of looks at observational work that I was doing in the store, begs the question of how do people shop when they push a shopping cart through the store? Now, I don't know about you, Mark, but what I do is I'm constantly looking around. I'm looking at shelves. I'm looking at signs. What I'm not doing is looking down. And why does that matter? Well, if I'm walking a 60-foot aisle and it serves me 5 ads, but I'm looking at all the visual cues in the natural environment, well, those are being served to me, but they're not really viewable because I never looked down. So again, here's an example of, please stop assuming, in the sense of, will people have their eyes fixated on their displays? No. How often do they look down? Well, that's something that I'm interested in looking at. But again, the technology, when you look at the bigger picture, is, wow, this is going to revolutionize the way people shop. It's going to influence the basket. That assumes that there's engagement between that technology and the consumer, and that's an open question.
Yeah, and I think that would be a topic for a whole other discussion about all the solutions out there in search of a problem.
Yeah, and it could raise other questions like, well, if people aren't looking, what can we do to encourage that? I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm an observer of human behavior. One would be introducing an audible signal that alerts them that something has changed on their display. It could be, Alexa saying, "Mark, your favorite multivitamin is available
for over 50 over 50 crowd."
Yeah.
So Amazon, if you're listening, David Bishop's available for product consultation.
No, I'm not trying to pimp anyone's services on it, but simply advocate for interrogating technology, because what I ended that with is, we at Brick Meets Click, our North Star, if you will, is understanding how technology can enhance the way we shop for groceries. But that's not to say it always enhances. It can take away. In this case, the dash cart disrupted the way I shop for groceries and actually took away from the experience, because I spent time trying to figure out how to get a paper receipt that I never ended up getting.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really, really great observation.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Mark.
Yeah. All right, folks, a little extended version of the Mark and David show. I think maybe we should come up with a new name. What do you think?
Versus Mark and David? Yeah, I'm not sure how it's Mark and David. That's like the inverse. If it's alphabetical, it's David and Mark. But
it's
it could be
age before beauty.
Well, we have grocery IP as kind of a trademark in ways.
Hmm.
And the IP stands for obviously intellectual property, insights and perspective, insights program. So I think this kind of embodies that, which it has aspects of all three of those.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get certain someone we know to think about how we could change things up here. How
Sure.
about that? Okay,
Someone with greater creativity. Sure.
that's right. That's right. Then the two of us. All right, it's great seeing you. I look forward to seeing you next month. More to talk about, more insights, more data, and I wish you all the best in 2024, my friend.
Same to you, and best of luck moving forward post merger.
Thank you, sir. All right,
Okay.
bye bye.
Take care.